All right, so good evening, folks. Just following up, you were given an activity to do, um, which requires you putting together all of the concepts that you have been exposed to so far. So using functions, using your creation of variables, your control structures, etc., to come up with a solution for a problem. And the problem is something that you have been exposed to before in terms of determining whether or not a number is odd or even. So the problem itself is not new. What is new is the way it has been packaged. And it has been packaged so that you can make use of the additional constructs that you would have learned the past couple of days. Now, unfortunately, it seems as if nobody was able to make headway with this activity. So let's just do it together and you can indicate where you fell short as we move along. So let's create a new file. Let's call that prog04.py. And the first thing, just revisiting the question. By the way, I told you to take screenshots. So I anticipate that you have it. So you should create a function and the function should accept some sort of input. In fact, it says to accept one input. Now, if we look back at some codes that we had done before, this is the calculate one. We see that we have our calculate function. And in this case, it actually takes in two elements. It takes in an element num1 and it takes in an element num2. So those are the two inputs. And then we're going to do something with those inputs. We can also see that it returns something. So those are some of the concepts that we are going to be using as we build out our function. So the first thing is to define the function with the def command, and then we'll give the function a name. So let's call it odd or even. Now functions need to have that parentheses. If we just compare to what we had before, there's the parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you have your inputs or your parameters, and then you have the colon at the end. So we know we want to take in a number. Let's call that num. And then at the end, let us put our colon. So what we are now left to do is to define the body of the function. So the question is, how do we know if a number is odd or even? Now, as I said, this is something that you have already been exposed to. So I know that you know the answer to that. So I put in the chat from that is, how will I determine in Python that a number is odd or a number is even?
Sir, I'm using a different media, but my chat also
Different media? Or you?
different device.
Oh.
Can I speak?
All right, so David is saying use the modulus and QE and write some code if num mod 2 is equal to 0. Well, let us try that now. So the input or the parameter here is num. So if num mod 2 is equal to 0, then you're saying that we know what?
Colon.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if Now mod 2 is equal to 0, then we know what?
It's an even number.
Then we know that it's an even number. And if it's an even number, what are we supposed to do? Based on the problem,
Print the numbers.
Return 1.
we should return a 1. So therefore, if this is true, then we need to return a 1. So put the colon, as was mentioned, and then we now need to have that 1 so that we can return. So let's create something called answer. We say that answer is going to be 1 whenever this criteria is true. Now, if this criteria is not true, then what do we know?
And
Else
it means
statement.
that
I heard several persons talking, so I have to make a decision.
You have to have an option. So you use the else statement.
Yeah, but that don't tell me what I need to do though. So I'm saying
Return
if
0.
this is not true, then what do I do? What do we know?
you would print.
Else
Hold on.
return 0.
I heard 2 persons.
0.
0. Okay. So what do we do with that 0?
You print it back.
No, we
Are we
create a else
printing?
statement and
Else
return
One
statement.
0.
minute,
So if
1
that
minute,
didn't work,
1 minute, 1 minute. Are we printing anything inside of this function?
Oh, no, sir.
What are we doing inside of this function?
I'm going to build statements.
I don't think you're answering me. Based on the problem
We
that I
just
gave, what is this
we're
function
just
supposed
testing.
to do?
Testing if it's an even or an odd number.
I'm not hearing you, David. You're very low.
We're testing if it's an even or an odd number.
Yeah, man. And if it is even, we do what? If it is odd, we do what?
Return if it's even, we return a 1. Else if we return a 0. That is if
Okay,
it's
so we
odd.
need to return a 0.
Yeah.
So how am I going to set this up so that it can return a 0?
You put an else statement there.
So else,
Hold on.
hold on.
And then you go to the next line, return 0.
Don't put the return in.
or declare a statement. Variable. Set a variable equal to 0.
Which variable?
Be careful.
Which variable?
Answer.
Okay.
ANS as you use. Anything that you name the first one.
All right. So we are going to test now. If it's divisible by 2, then answer is equal to 1. Otherwise, meaning if it is not true, then the answer is equal to 0. What do we do next? So we have our outputs. What do we need to do with these outputs?
This is the main program now.
We don't reach the main program as yet. What is this function supposed to do with the outputs?
This we want it to be stored in we want it to be stored in a variable.
We already do that. So the question
Oh.
is, what do we want this function to do with the outputs?
We want it to check the output to see if it's an odd or even number to output 1 or 0.
No, that's not true. What is the output in this case?
Wait, answer would be the output?
No, I am asking the questions when they giving me answers.
Oh.
So when they're responding with
No,
answers.
but wait, that's the complete definition of the first function. It's just a function.
That don't tell me anything, you know. So let me go back to my question. My question is, what do we do with the outputs? What does the problem say we need to do with the outputs? I told you explicitly.
Print an appropriate message.
Does that part deal with the function?
Oh yeah, no, that's the main. That would be the main
Okay.
program.
So talk about the function.
Return. All right. So if the input is.
So you have to create an input, user input.
No, Courtney. You're far off base. I'm asking the question, what are we doing with outputs? So what are we doing with the outputs? Outputs.
One, it would return 1 or 0.
Okay, so how do we do that then?
All right, so right here the function, it was going to check the number to see if it's odd or even.
Wait, you finish?
Yeah, is it
No,
going to check? All right.
where I can't finish. Have we done that already?
Yes, we wrote
So
that.
what is left? So what is left? What else is supposed to do with the function?
To run the function?
Hold on. Let me ask a question to the class. You went over this function thing since the last class? I'll go back over the function thing from the last class. Like why in the chat for me, please.
In the text you wrote, you said
1 minute, Courtney, I'm answering a question. I asked a pointed question because I need to know. So the pointed question is, those who took the time to go back over the whole functions that we talked about in the last session, please type Y in the chat. All right, so we have 3 persons who went back over the functions. The rest of class never go over the functions. All right, so out of these 3 persons, you should be able to answer the question then. And the question is, we have coded up the logic of the function. Based on the problem statement, what is now left for us to do with this function?
all right. According to it, you have to create another function.
That's not true.
Yeah,
That's
it's a use the function to create a main program that will have the
Yeah,
user
but that did not
enter.
say create another function. I am still on this function.
It says use the function.
So are you talking about closing the function?
Is that, I guess, to close it to move on to the main program? Is that what you're
I
asking?
want to know what to do now with this function. So only say the function finished then. So we can move on then. That's what I'm saying?
No, the function is not finished.
Okay, so if the function is not complete, then what do I now need to do? to make it complete.
Taking a while, I guess, sir. Save it.
To save it? No, not to save it. That is really a wild guess.
Sir, we need like a calculation.
No, we don't need a calculation. All right, so I'm going to go out on a limb. And I'm going to say, based on this limb, that we'll never take the time to actually type up the program them and execute them and experiment with them. Because if you did, then it means that something is not gelling, something I'm communicating, not resonating, or probably does not communicate properly. So I'm now in a quandary because when I ask the questions, to determine whether or not you understand, and based on the responses, I figure that you're no good. But now I'm asking you to complete this, and it seems as if you're having a challenge completing it. Then obviously there is some gap that needs to be closed. So make a close the gap. If it is that when I'm demonstrating, I don't put forward the material well, then you need to say that so that I can put it forward in different ways so that hopefully I can grasp it, right? That's one. But two, if it is that you have not done your part in terms of going over the material, in terms of doing the practice and asking yourself the probative questions that you need to ask yourself, then you must also be equally as forthright and say, I fell short and I'm going to do better next time. So, which is it?
Sir, I accept that I fell short.
All right, David. My respect, sir. So we have a little work to do this week in terms of getting up the par. All right, so only David alone falls short. Everybody else, tell me what I'm doing wrong.
I think it's well, I understand it to a level, but I think it's a communicable sanction terminology.
Yeah, I understand it to a level, but
Yes, but I think it's concept and terminology.
I don't understand what you mean by that, Courtney.
I just
You
feel like
understand it, but concepts and terminology, I don't understand what you mean by that. You don't understand the concepts and terminologies? But if you don't understand the concept and terminologies, then you don't understand. We are trying to get to the root of the problem. Only one person indicate that they fell short. So if only one person fell short, then the only other alternative in the equation is the teacher. So only now tell me where have I fell short?
So, sir, my issue is I only caught up to the previous class, not the last class. So I haven't watched last one's video. So mostly that and practice. So I haven't been practicing, but I have been going over um understanding like where to use like because I had an issue previously with like the brackets, but now I kind of understand it now what to do and stuff like that. So it's now it's just the practicing that I kind of fall short on.
All
Um,
right.
and that and because me I work, it kind of mess up my schedule when I forget for practice. So
I
I
mean,
still I
understand
try.
all of that.
So upon
I
my part,
understand
so
all of that. We live in a real world and things happen. So I understand that totally. And I do have an issue. The point I'm making though, and this is not for you, I'm just talking to the class. The point I'm making though is we have to be honest with ourselves. If it is that we are the problem, we have to be willing to stand up and say, listen, I am the problem. I fell short. I need to do some work. But let us not pretend that. The pretend not help anyhow. Because I thought I delivered in terms of showing the example and explaining what each of the construct mean and how you put them together. I thought I did that. If I fell short in terms of doing that, you have the onus as the learners to say, boy, sir, we know two get that part, they know that part, they're not gel. But if you remain silent, then I'm going to assume that you have connected with the material. No, I have said this from day one that this is one of those modules where you have to practice it for me like maths. There's no other way you get good at programming but to go back through the material and actually practice. It's like swimming. Just sit down and read the book and learn how to swim. You have to put it in action.
You create the function you call the function.
in this case, since to the next step, because that's coming down from first
All right,
quarter.
so only two persons fell short, and other persons who never fell short, them cannot tell me where I fell short in terms of communicating what was to be communicated. I'm hoping to do some evaluation on this. Later when I go home. Well, most of you them home already. Looking at the example, one of the example that we did last time. What is line 5 doing?
9 5.
And I'm returning an answer
What does that mean?
with num1 and num2 plus adding num1 and num2.
Yeah, but what does that mean in a general?
Go again. What does that mean? As in to
What what
return,
does what does line 5 mean in a general context?
as it is a variable.
All right. Anybody else?
Mm, it's the result. Basically,
So when you need
to print the answer.
I'm not hearing you, Ryan. You're extremely low.
So to give the answer basically.
What do you mean by that? I think you're on the right track, but what do you mean by that? I need to be sure.
Um, to print the answer.
Print the answer. No,
Exit,
this is not printing.
No, not
exit.
um. So it's the result to give the results of it, but not to exactly print it.
All right, never give us 70%.
Um, I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is line 5. I don't know what line 5 um,
So
is saying.
that's to exit the function.
When I say exit, what do you mean?
That means basically save it and come out of it.
All right, no, this doesn't do anything about saving. Saving is when you can't press Control X and you save the file.
So is it that line?
Terminology about exiting the program is actually correct, but I don't think you understand what that means based
Are
on
you
your
talking?
response.
So are you saying a break in the code or uh,
All
the end
right,
of
1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Queen, you have to go unmute and say that. I hope you can talk. Queen, you can't talk. Oh, Queen at work. So let me read what he said. He said to send the result to the main.
Oh.
So let's go again. He said the purpose of the return in a general context, because that's what I'm asking. What does line 5 mean in a general context? And in a general context, it means we're sending the result or the output. Remember, I use the word output when you write the program repeatedly. So we're sending the output to the main. In other words, we have taken in some input into this function. We have done some processing on these inputs. We have generated an output. And now we need to send that output from the function to somewhere else so that it can be used. It's important to understand that concept because if you don't understand that concept, then you're going to be, well, you're not going to be able to create the function and use them effectively. So it's important that you get that. So having said that, and having set that context, let's go back to what we were writing. So we are here. We have created the function. It takes in an input. We have done some processing and we have generated our output. What's the next step in the process?
We have already generated it. So starting with the
Re
next.
return
Okay,
answer.
so we're going to return. Return, and they said answer.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, for all intents and purposes, we now have a function. Function is called odd or even. Takes in a number. We process that number by performing the modulus. And based on the value that we get, then we are going to store an output being 1 or 0. And at the end, we return that output. Now, if it is that this function is correct, then we should be able to test it out. And the next question is, where are we going to test it out? Where?
In the main function,
In the
main
main.
program.
Thank you very much. In the main program. Typically, we use the word program. In most languages, it is a special type of a function. But let's just use program to distinguish between functions and the main. So I just use main program. So we're going to test it out in the main program. Now in Python, we have to set up this main program. How do we do that?
Uh,
We
no.
define it and give it a name with an empty parenthesis, empty bracket.
That's incorrect, Courtney. How do we set up the main?
part, it's if it enter a number.
Declare it
Remember, you're
as main.
extremely low, Brian. Okay. Amplify so we can hear you.
So do we
And
start by defining it as main?
oh,
Um, so it's
Yeah. The number equal.
number equal?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Number equal?
You basically start the next part, it's
In
a number equal
integer.
integer bracket input.
So when
Okay.
define an integer.
So that's not correct. All the challenges that we're having is because we don't never take time to go back to the thing, right? No, I am confident that we don't go through it because you could not go through it and write the programs and execute them for yourself. And we're at this stage. So now I have taken myself out of the equation. I am now confident that I have done my part. But I'm saying to you now, categorically, that you need to do your part. So let's go back to where we were. I know for a fact that I
Declare
went. Hello, 1 minute, please. I know for a fact that I spent time and go through this and tell you what to write, what it means, what each symbol is. I know for a fact that I'm not that, well, I am that old, but memory not gone. So I took time out to go through this statement, this construct. I took my time to go through it. So, wanna now need to tell me now over this side what I had said. All right, who now want to tell me? So you know what me I gonna do? I just gonna copy
If
it and drop it over here, so. And when Uno I go through and I write back the codes them, Uno going to remember what I've said because Uno going to go back to the recording and then Uno going to type that out symbol for symbol so that you know what each of these things actually represent. I know I took time to go through it. But anyway, this is the main. So we have now set up the main structure and now we need to put the codes that we need to put inside the main. So what's the first valid line that we could have in this main? Once again, based on the problem.
Try.
We're given a problem. Yeah?
Try.
Try. That's what they said, try, Try.
Yes, sir.
Oh, not in this case. You could have a try, but not in this case. I never asked about exceptions, so there's no need to try. I said David
so
typed
seeing
something in the chat,
Input.
so I'm going to run with what David has. So this is what David has. David, you have
Uh, correction to the bracket, sir. It should be
yeah,
not a curly bracket.
have a curly bracket at the beginning there, which should be a rounded bracket. All right. Now the question to the class is what does line 13 do? Everybody's supposed to can answer this. Line 13, what does it do?
Accept an input.
That's
accept
50%.
and store the variable as a store the input as an integer.
That's 75%.
Um, In the variable number.
No,
Number.
that is 100%.
Hmm.
The point I'm making is that one statement can be doing several things, and that's exactly what is happening on line 13. It's getting an input, it's converting the input to an integer, and it's storing that integer into a variable. If you don't tell me all of that, then you don't get the full story. And I hope you can appreciate that. Good. So we have now obtained the integer. By the way, it's integer. So get rid of that R. It's not integer. All right, good. What's the next step?
So you're
Check the
going to
number and compare it.
The what?
Check the status of the number.
How?
Compare it to the function.
How?
so
By using a status check. Status
No, all right,
equal.
so hear me now. You try go based off of prior knowledge. You're not going off what I have taught. You have to use what I have taught. That is the context. All right? Yeah. Who
Okay.
next? What's the next step?
So an if statement.
Incorrect.
All right.
Here's an odd question, Mega asks.
The number is equal.
Why you prepare food? I say, David,
Why you do?
I asked you an odd question, and the question is, why do you prepare food?
prepare food because you want to consume it.
There you go. So why have I created a function?
You create the function because you want the function to do something, to do a job. So because the function is there now, or we already accepted the user input. We are now going to we want to call the function for it to do its
Yes,
job.
brother. Yes, brother. Yes.
So to call the function, um we could use, let's say, um we can use the result equals and call the function, which is odd or even there, and
I
check.
read David and someone. Just talk it through.
No,
Okay.
David put answer
And,
another.
yeah,
uh,
David is an answer. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
uh, Call even,
So,
right.
so it's odd or even.
Mhm.
Please throw on the name David. If you create the
Okay, sir.
function, then you create it because you want to use it at some point. So now I'm using the function. This is the function call. And by calling the function, it means that we are carrying out the activity or the task which we have given to this function. Now, this function returns a value. One out of two possible values. It can either return a 1 or return a 0. So therefore, if I call the function and I assign the output to result, then what are the possible values that I can see inside of result? What are the possible values I can see?
1 or
1 or
0.
0.
1 or 0. Those are the only two possibilities.
So
Are we
from this
finishing the
you
main
get
program now?
No, sir.
No,
No.
we want output.
What kind of output?
Can say a
Text.
visual output, because now we have called the function. So we want to, can we print the output now? Because I think in the instruction it said print the output, right?
Well, it says print an appropriate output.
Print, okay. So we can use, so now we can use
If statement.
we can say a if statement.
If result equal 1, when
Right.
print.
If result equal open quotation 1 close quotation,
No,
There's no
or
quotation, there's an
no
integer.
quotation.
no quotation. Oh yeah, quotation
So,
would denote a string.
so
Exactly.
next line is print, open bracket, F,
Um,
in
open
curly brackets.
quotation.
Curly bracket.
The
After
quotation,
the F,
Quotation.
what do we have?
quotation,
Okay.
Quotation. Curly bracket.
curly bracket, number.
Number. Curly bracket and close. The just have to print the number. Just have to print the result.
Then we have an else statement.
You can put
Hold
a
on. So you
statement.
finish with this print statement?
No, you can print it for you see what the output is. So you say
No, behind that, just put
It's an even
num
number. Yeah, we're going to put a statement now.
is
Like
even number
yeah, number is an even number.
or this num
is
An
an
even number. Yeah.
else.
yes.
And same print statement, we're just going to change the even to odd.
So we save.
Yeah, ready for run.
And now we're going to try and run it, right? What is name? Prog4. So enter an integer. Give me an integer.
So
2. 2 is an even number. Run it again. Give me a next
3,
number. 3.
7.
3 is an odd number. Let's run it again. Here's 7. 7 is an odd number. One more time. This is our last time. 12.
2.5. 2.5.
12 is a, well, we did say it's taking in an integer, right? 2.5 is just an integer.
Okay. So what would it do?
I leave you to try that and come back and tell us. All right. So, pointed question. This bit difficult.
No, sir.
All right. One person never difficult. What says the rest of the class?
It wasn't difficult, sir, just that you needed
Different
to
language, different way of
understand.
speaking and structure it.
So 1 minute. So I hear David say it wasn't difficult, but
If we had practice, it would have been much, much easier for us. But we realize now that we see the result, it wasn't difficult.
all right. So I hope the point has been made. There is something that you have to do, class. I can't do that part for you. My job is to give you the information in a simplified way as I think possible and explain the concept so that when you leave, you understand what is happening. But if you don't look at anything until the next time we meet, then these are going to be the results because you're going to forget everything and it's like you're starting all over from scratch. Yeah, you have to put in the
Sir,
time and practice. Yes.
just a suggestion. You can give it
Huh?
two problem, make we work on it for the next class, Ensure
Yeah.
we practice.
Soon leave.
Yes, I could, and yes, I should, but that still does not absolve the class because if you at least went through what we had done and type it up for yourself, which is what I've always recommended, then we still would not even be in this position. So yes, I should. Yes, I could. So I take that suggestion. Any more thoughts? All right. How do I do this in this language? It's not. Yeah. You know what? Let me not do it that way. Do it this way. A bit more precise. An integer. All right. So David asks for problem. Let me not call it problem. David asks for an activity, and I have given the class an activity. So you're going to create a program that will accept an integer. This integer is coming from the user, and then you're going to test the number to determine if it's a prime number. And I went ahead and I defined what a prime number is. It is a number that is only divisible by one on itself. I went further to expound on that. In other words, if the integer is divisible by any other number apart from one or itself, then the number is not prime. So if you can find any other number apart from one and the number that can divide the number that you're looking at without leaving a remainder, then the number that you're looking at is not a prime number. And you should give an appropriate message to the user. Now, after you have done that, the next thing that you're going to do is you're now going to refactor or redesign the program. What we try to do as good software development practice is to write codes that are reusable. So in this instance, we are going to refactor and we are going to create a function that will actually test if the number is prime. And once you do that, well, you have to go figure out how you're going to set up that, what you're going to call it, how many parameters, what the body is going to be. You're going to have to figure out all of that. And then you're now going to make use of that function so that you get a program that gives the same output as the one above, but this time it's making use of a function that you have created. If the ask is understood, please type U. All right, excellent. Seen several U's. I guess the U's have it. So we're going to stop here. You have some back work to go and do. As soon as this is rendered, I'm going to upload it in the portal on the YouTube channel so that you have access to it. And my recommendation is when you get the recordings, don't only watch them. Watch, pause, practice, question your assumptions, question your knowledge, and then you continue going through the rest of the material in a similar manner. The only way you become good at this thing is by doing the practice, doing the work. Any questions?
Okay, I was aware. The first one is mathematical calculation and the other one is functionality. Number two.
For the mathematical, but
No man, the other one is just writing the program straight and then the other one is to adjusting it to
yeah, so
do the
one is
function
writing
method.
a program without a function, and one is writing
Yeah.
a program
Okay.
using a function that you have created.
Okay.
So we're going to do 1 and 2, and then you said restructure it to apply to a function that we've created.
No, I never said 1 and 2. You're doing 1, and then having done 1, you're going to do 2. 2 is based on 1.
Okay, use the concept of a function to redesign your program. Okay.
So those are all the questions. All right. So last week when we had the class, Courtney had asked if I could do some user interface. And I remember pointedly saying, no, let us focus on getting this out of the way first and ensure that we understand. We can't look at user interface, which is outside of the ambit of the course, until you can demonstrate that you are grounded based on what it is that you need to cover. Matter of fact, we can't look at anything else. Christine did have one nice problem about reading XML files. We can't look at that yet. It would be nice if we could look at it. The point I'm making, folks, and I'm talking to everyone, is the more you put in, is the more you can get out. Because if you can demonstrate the competencies needed for what is on the outline, the syllabus, then I can introduce it to additional stuff in the same time. But if you don't, then all that additional stuff, you won't be exposed. So you have in your hand how you want this module to proceed. And that's enough from me for today. So I'll see you all in our next session.
Okay, sir, Scarlett.
Yeah, man, bless.
All right. Have a good one, sir.
Guidance, guidance.